Following incorporation in 1995, CSA began offering arts classes in the spring of 1996 under the leadership of Mrs. Marla Kepler.
My name is Marla Kepler, and I started at the beginning with the Community School of the Arts, and I think I was probably involved about 15 years before Mark Fauser took over. Well, I was contacted by Jean Lowe, who at that time was the minister at St. John Lutheran Church on 14th Street. And she had gotten my name from someone, and we met. And she had been involved, she was a concert pianist, and she had been involved with the guild, and said, I know of a $5,000 grant money that we could use to start a community school of the arts. And she was hoping that I would facilitate raising funds. Well, at the time, I felt uncomfortable asking people to donate to a building, but I loved the idea of the concept of a school of the arts. So I met at her church and saw the basement was not being used, and she was willing to let us start that there at no charge, and that's what started the Community School of the Arts. And we brought together several people, or a lot of community-minded people, many artists in the community, for several meetings periodically to try to get on our feet. Nancy Lutz was appointed the first executive director, and from there it just grew.
My name is Linda Ernest, and I started with them probably around 1998, and the reason I did is, as a lot of things get done in our community, a friend asked me to be involved, and that friend was Marla Kepler. Probably everyone knows that she is the visionary behind CSA. The real positive thing about St. John's, I think I mentioned earlier, was the neighborhood. We were in a place that people felt safe. People from all over the community came to St. John's, probably never have been there before in their lives, and understood the area and were fine about coming to the church. And I really liked that part of the St. John's.
My name is Noelle Lehman, and I was involved with the School of the Arts from about 1998 to approximately 2005. Marla Kepler called me. I was a singer here in town, and she was looking for somebody to do voice lessons and possibly a children's choir, and so that's how I began. I was the executive director for a year, and I was a board member for 5. So yeah, I stayed on the board. I'm actually the person that brought Mark Fauser on as a board member, and we were just at that time trying to keep CSA afloat.
CSA's early history was formed by many people who, like Marla, had a dream to ignite a passion for the arts within their community.
Well, I only remember being there just a very few times, and it's always, it was always kind of a unique adventure because it was in the basement, so you had to kind of find your way to the basement. And I believe it was Mrs. Pullman was the art teacher at that time, and she, just had a really unique gift for working with kids and getting them to express themselves, whether it was listening to music and then drawing, or just giving them a theme to work from. And I mean, you're talking really almost finger painting, with a lot of 5, 6, and 7-year-olds, and that was my biggest memory, was just really her being able to captivate kids of that age and keep them focused on something, and then being able to walk away with something that you can cherish.
My favorite memory was that we did a voice recital for the first time in that church, and the acoustics were fantastic upstairs, and it was the first time they'd done anything like that, and so the church members were really interested in it, and they came over and were impressed that we were actually doing classical music. So, but it was a good time getting the community involved in that and actually being able to do something that they hadn't thought about doing before.
I remember seeing, I think, a budget of like $2,300 one year, and we didn't know how we were going to make it. Carla and Marla and Phyllis Moorhead and the crew that was at the church, and worked so hard. I remember coming on the board with Don Darga and Mark at the same time, so it was just an absolute whirlwind.
I was a board member for 6 years, and I was also president of the board for 2 years, I believe. I remember being in the basement at a board meeting with Marla and Mark, and a board member that was very involved. Her name was Tina Miller at that time. And again, fundraising was a topic of conversation on every single board meeting that we had. How do we grow? How do we involve kids, especially neighborhood? That was a real draw at that point in a neighborhood that needed a little treasure. And so we were thinking fundraising. Tina Miller came up with the idea of a go-kart race. And that night, we all thought, wow, is that outside the box or what? I've never heard of that before. And we came up with the word Go Arts, Go-Kart Race at that very meeting. And I just remember that we were so excited about it and couldn't wait to let the community know. And if you know anything about CSA, that was history made that night. It became a huge fundraiser and a wonderful community event.
Well, first of all, I have to thank St. John Lutheran. They were just so wonderful in letting us stay there for as long as we did. Basically charged us nothing, and I just really appreciate that.
Mark Fauser became a board member while I was there, again at St. John's Lutheran, where we started. If you're around Mark at all, you're going to feel passion. And Mark instilled that in me as well, that this was a great idea and we needed to continue. We needed to continue that idea.
It started really by Marla Kepler, who's truly one of the most amazing people I've ever met. She is just so active in this community, and I don't think she's ever rested a day in her life. She just has this passion for the arts, and so she would work up making brochures, whatever she could do to put 6 weeks here, stained glass class here, do this class there. And so she fought. She was really a one-man army for this long.